Welcome back to CriCri Aviation. My name is Jim Payne. In this video, we're going to spend some time talking about where my CriCri project is as of today. I'm also going to talk about the videos I have upcoming. I have lots of videos that I need to get out, and I realize I've been behind, but I appreciate your patience. So please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not a subscriber, and please stick around and we'll talk about all of the things I've done on the CriCri over the last several months. So as you can see, I've gotten pretty far on the project. I wish I was a lot further. I had actually planned on trying to get this done for Oshkosh this year, but it was obviously because of material availability issues that I had with this foam that's actually right behind me for the wings that I just wasn't going to get it done. I had actually ordered this stuff way back at the beginning of May, and I literally just received it a few weeks ago. So it took over 4 months to get that material, and I don't know that that was really an issue with Divinycell availability. I think it was more of an issue of Aircraft Spruce not having stock on it and having to reorder it and just taking a while because I don't think they sell a lot of it. I could have gotten this probably from other suppliers, but the issue I have is that I can drive to Aircraft Spruce and I don't have to pay, freight truck shipping costs that I would have to pay if I had purchased that from any other supplier, like let's say a surfboard supplier in California or something. So I just didn't want to pay the higher cost to try and get it from somewhere else, and it wasn't clear that I was going to get the airplane done anyway. So I've been able to finish a lot of things though, as you can see. Yesterday I literally just finished this canopy installation and finished all the trimming on it, so the canopy is complete now. That was a big project. Now the canopy itself, I did send a CAD drawing off to a canopy manufacturer. They were able to make a plug for it. They were then able to make a mold off of that plug, and this is the first canopy that came off of that mold, and it looks absolutely perfect. The shape is perfect, the fit is perfect, so I do have canopies available. If anybody wants to email me, my email's in the in the description on all of my videos. So if anybody needs one right away, just let me know. I can get these anytime. So they, again, it's a perfect fit, and this is the original size canopy. This is not a heightened canopy for taller people. I just fit in this. In other words, I do need to lose some weight before I fly this airplane. I'm planning on doing that. But my shoulders touch basically either side of the canopy, just brushing up against it when I'm sitting in the airplane. The other thing is that my head is very close to the top. I can lean forward and get a little bit of space, but if I'm sitting in my normal sitting position, I can tilt my head about this much, and my headset or whatever I'm wearing on my head would hit the sides of the canopy. So it is a tight squeeze. Again, I'm 5'9", so if that's any reference for anybody else, that's where I'm at. So it is tight inside of this airplane for anybody who's taller, and I'm not tall, at all. So just be aware of that if you're building this airplane or planning on building this airplane. So some of the modifications I've done. So the canopy, there's a few things. I did not make the canopy latches that were in the manual. I went ahead and purchased some canopy flip latches. They're commonplace now. You can buy them just about anywhere, and there's all kinds of different types. I did want to find one with a locking mechanism in it, so that when you latched it, you couldn't just flip it open without pressing a button or something to be able to release them, because I didn't want them to just get inadvertently popped open or something. So we'll go over that in the canopy video. But the other thing that I did too is that there's no way in the plans that they show how to secure the canopy when you're outside of the airplane. In other words, if you're inside the airplane, you can close the latches and lock the canopy. That's great. But when you get out of the airplane and you want to, let's say, put it in a trailer, or you want to have it sitting at the airport, or you want to take it to an air show and have it on the airfield, there's no way to lock the canopy down and actually have it closed. And because of the way the canopy sits on its frame, it doesn't necessarily want to close all the way, because there's a little bit of pressure that you use to pull down with the latches, to get it secured. So I did create an external, we'll call it a latch, but what I ended up doing, again, this will be in the video, is I actually have an Allen key And what I did is I put a flush mount Allen key screw on the side of the cockpit here that goes into the airplane, and it's got a little cam on the end of it that when you push it in, and it's spring loaded, you push it in, you rotate it, it will lock the canopy, you push it in and rotate it the other way, it pops out, and the canopy comes open. It seems to work great, and again, it's not secure in that I've got a locking key, but I do have a Allen key that you have to be able to open it, and at least when I'm at the airfield I can just have it on the end of my keychain and just latch the canopy down so it doesn't blow open. Or when I put it in the trailer, be able to have it trailered without the canopy bouncing around and doing any damage. So I can basically put this Allen key in here, turn it, and you'll hear it pop, and then the canopy opens. So the other thing is they don't really talk in the manual about how to tether the canopy. So I did have to come up with a way of tethering this so that when it's open, it's not just flopping all the way down. I did look at some videos on the internet of other CriCri builders and what they had done, but I just used a cable, and again, we'll go over that in the video too. So some of the other things. One of the really time-consuming things that I worked on over the last several months was molds. So I had to create molds for the fuel tank and make a new fuel tank. We had to have some fit issues with the one that John had created for me. The fuel tank that I created ended up being 6¼ gallons, so 6.25 gallons. I believe the plans mentioned that it should be like 6.1 gallons, so I'm very close. I do have the ability, because of how I did the mold, that I have a seam section in there that can be adjusted up and down probably 3/4 of an inch to an inch, so I can actually expand or reduce the height of the fuel tank a little bit to actually increase or reduce the size of the amount of fuel that it holds. But molds were so time consuming. So I had a fuel tank mold. You can see up here in the front I did custom made molds for my my turboprop engine cowlings. I had to do the tips on the horizontal stabilizer. I had to do the tip on the vertical fin. I still have to make molds for the wing tips and the wheel pants, but for the most part everything else is done. Now molds, just because I was trying to make professional gel coat molds that I could reuse and remake parts with, they're extremely time consuming to make. Just the process of going through trying to create a foam plug, and either I could do that on the CNC machine in certain cases, like with the nose cone I was able to make that on the CNC machine, but I had to do 3 layers on the CNC machine. I had to take those foam pieces, glue them together. You got to fill the seams around it and at least make it somewhat finished as far as a foam piece goes, but you can't just take a mold off of a piece of foam. You might be able to one time, but you're not going to be able to remake parts off of that. So you got to take that piece of foam, you got to fill it, you got to sand it, you got to get it somewhat smooth. You then have to fiberglass that because it's not strong enough to be able to just fiberglass right on top of it for a mold. And then you get done fiberglassing and you've kind of got a big mess that you have to sand and fill and finish. And then on top of that, you've got to use mold primer all over it and do several layers of that and sand it in between till you get it almost to a polished form. You have to have at least no imperfections in it that are going to show up in the final mold. Once you get done with that, you got to wax it, you got to PVA it, put gel coat on top of that, fiberglass on top of that. You got to make some kind of wooden frame that you fiberglass together to give it some strength when it's done. You then pop that off of your original plug, and then you've got to sand and polish that. And then you get done sanding and polish that, then you got to wax that, you got to PVA that, you got to do your fiberglass in it for your actual part. And it just took me weeks and weeks to be able to create molds for a lot of these things. But I've got most of them done, and of course the ones I did for my turboprop engine cowlings, they may be a one-off thing. I don't know if I'll ever use those again unless I need to replace mine. The other things that I finished is, I think even in the last video I didn't even have the front upper fuselage, sheet metal even riveted. I didn't have the rear canopy. All that had to be finished in its final form, and I had to finish the access holes for the rudder pedals in the front that I added that were different. The instrument panel is done. I've got all the stuff on the instrument panel. I do not have the wiring completed between the engines and the instrument panel and the instrument panel and a battery. I did do underneath the nose cone a battery mount that mounts on the front of the engine mount. Part of the reason I did that is because I wanted to have some ballast. I knew that these engines are super light compared to the original, say Solo 210 or JPX engines. And that, I really needed weight in the front, but not only did I need weight in the front, I needed battery power because I do not have a generator on this airplane. So in addition to that, you can see I worked on the fairings that go over the engine mounts. Let me think of what else. Oh, pitot-static lines, antenna lines, GPS line for the EFIS that I have inside. I put the tips on the horizontal stabilizer and did a little bit of filling and sanding on that, so it's basically ready to be painted. Brakes are totally finished. I went ahead and the brakes are fully working right now and filled with fluid, so they're ready to go. I had to do a mic switch, and again the fuel tank installation was. The whole fuel tank in itself was quite a process. Just getting the mold made. That had to be basically made by hand. I had to create a foam plug by hand that I just kept fitting inside the airplane to exactly how I wanted to have it look in its final form. Where it sits now is I've gotten very, very far with the fuselage itself. Other than the engine cowlings that I need to finish and whatever needs to be done around the pylons, the nose cone's completely done and the pitot-static line's connected to that and the battery mounts in there. So it's really just a matter of finishing the wiring inside the airplane to the engines. It's finishing the engine cowlings themselves, which are all formed, so and they're all fit in place. So it's a matter of just the final finishing and all the screws and attachment points for it, and figure out get the exhaust attached and everything. So yeah, the only thing I really then have left in major form is the wings. That's what this foam behind me is for. I did get the wing spars out, and I did the aerobatic mod where you're supposed to actually create some tapered aluminum pieces that attach to the lower spars, lower spar caps on those the wing spars, and I went ahead and created those, installed those, so those are done and it's ready to go as far as starting to cut out the foam ribs and install them. Now, one of the other things I'm going to have done in a future video is that before I cut wing ribs out on this foam, I'm actually going to do a test where I'm going to heat the foam and try and figure out exactly how much it shrinks. And I'm going to go into this on the video, but there is a difference between the original Cligicel foam and the Divinycell foam. And there's been a lot of advancements in the Divinycell foam as far as its ability to resist heat. Even though the working temperature of those two products has not changed, the processing temperature has changed significantly. And again, like I said, we're going to go over this in detail, but the testing that I had done when I had heat treated this material before, I did it for days literally, in a heat box, is that I really couldn't get the foam to shrink much at all unless I got the foam above 180 degrees and somewhere between 180 and 200. Now, if I got anywhere over 200, my insulated box started melting. I mean, literally, you really can't heat the stuff over 200 degrees. So you got to kind of hit that sweet spot between 180 and 200. But my question is then, do I need to heat treat it at all? Because I did some testing here where, I got a thermal thermometer. I went outside. I'm in Georgia. It's in the middle of summer and it's, 98 degrees outside in the afternoon and it's been sunny all day. Testing temperature of paint. How hot does a white car get? How hot does black plastic get? How hot does an orange car get? How hot does a silver car get? And through all that testing, I realized that there's no way I would ever hit 180 degrees on any part of this airplane unless it was painted black. And the fact is that this is not going to be an airplane that sits outside all the time in the sun. This is a, longest it's going to be outside at any point is probably sitting at an air show. So it's not going to be stored outside. It's not going to be sitting outside in the sun. And I'm not going to paint this airplane anything other than white or silver or some lighter color. And I'm really trying to figure out if heat treating this foam is even necessary anymore. And part of the reason that I'm saying that is because if you go back and read not only Zen Air's newsletters and also the things that Columbine has said about the foam itself, is that they seem to get this foam at 135 degrees Fahrenheit that it started to, let's say, deteriorate or started to, shrink or started to lose its properties, even though it was supposed to have a, availability to work up to 160 degrees. And they were saying it would get soft and it would, shrink and all these kind of things long before and it's actually, I believe, 158 degrees is the actual working temperature. But I have not seen that at all from the DiviniCell product. I don't believe, and again I'm going to test it, I don't believe that I will find any shrinkage or softening of this product or anything up to 160 degrees at all. And then the question is what happens between 160 and 180 degrees? Is there any shrinkage? And to be quite honest, if it doesn't shrink between 160 and 180 for 24 hours, I'm not going to bother heat treating the foam because I just don't think it's necessary. You can do things to have this airplane never reach those temperatures anyway, and if it's 180 degrees, there's no reason to heat treat it between 180 and 200. You're too close already anyway. So again, I'm going to try and do some testing because heat treating the foam is a bit of a pain. The other thing I found is that when I heated this foam, I did not have it wrinkle. I did not have it misshapen itself. I did it in a sheet, and I did get some shrinkage. But it all shrunk uniformly, and the only time I had some issues was with the much lower density foam, like the 60. This is the 100 density, and the 60 density that I use for like the ribs. If I got that up to 180 to 200 degrees, it literally turned into almost like toast. I mean, it turned purple on the edges. It did start to shrink, but as far as I'm concerned, it also got brittle. And so that concerned me a little bit about that foam and how it was affected so significantly by heat, even compared to the higher density stuff. The higher density stuff shrunk so little, even at that 200 degree mark, that I think when I calculated it, a rib itself even shrunk up to using the 200 degrees. Was equivalent to the outside dimensions of the wing rib shrinking 20 thousandths. So the skin thickness of the wings is the amount of shrinkage that you would have, because it was like 0.1%, less than 0.1% or something like that. So I'm going to do some testing on that before I actually start my wings, because again, I'm trying to figure out if it's necessary to heat treat this stuff anymore. Because again, I think the product has changed enough, it's been advanced as far as its ability to resist heat, just because of the advancements in pre-preg technologies and vacuum bagging technologies, where you have a lot of heat processing that goes on, and of course you don't want the foam to shrink if you put it in a machine and you're running it through a system that's putting fiberglass on it and it's flashing and creating a lot of heat. So again, I'm going to do some testing. We'll go over that. Again, I appreciate you guys sticking around. I know some people in the comments have been wondering if I even exist anymore. Again, I apologize. I got so busy with not only trying to get this project done, but with work stuff and home projects and other things that I'm trying to get done, that the videos got pushed back a little bit. The other issue I have is that when I work in the shop here, I'm not a clean worker. I'll admit it. When I work on this airplane, I'm all about the work. And a lot of times I work to the very, very end, and I don't have time to clean up. So even just getting a shop clean enough to take a video is difficult for me at times. And these intro videos are something that I try and do after I'm done with every step. Now, I haven't done an intro video for any of the videos that are coming up yet, and I think I counted, I have 14 videos to do, because it's everything from the fuel tank to finishing the brakes to the forward and the rear, cowling, that I've done, the canopy itself, the engine covers, horizontal stabilizer tips, the aerobatic mod for the wing spars. So, I mean, instrument panel, I've just got a lot of stuff that I have that I'm trying to break down into individual videos, and hopefully those will be shorter than the sometimes hour and a half that I end up going on with these other videos. But anyway, I appreciate you guys sticking around. I am trying to get this airplane done. I'm hoping that by the end of the year that I will have the wings done. I do want to have this airplane ready to fly in the spring, and again, this will be at Oshkosh this next year in 2025, for sure. Whether it's done or not, or whether it's flying or not, it will be there. So appreciate you guys sticking around, and I'll try and get some more videos out as soon as I can.